Hey everyone, my name's Lily, and I've done the most terrible thing in my life. I also learned from my own experience how a boomerang works. I really don't know what I was thinking then, when I was in the locker room, and why this idea came to my head at all, but... Oh, by the way, before we move on to the story, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell button to never miss new videos. Okay, let's keep going. It was just an ordinary school day, nothing special. Just as usual, I went to the swimming pool for training after school. The training finished, I took a shower, changed my clothes, and scrolled Instagram for a while. Then, something strange happened. One chemistry teacher came into the locker room. No, there was nothing strange about the fact that teachers sometimes go to the swimming pool. Everyone knew that some teachers also practice swimming as it's good for health, but everyone really considered Mrs. Smith, surname has been changed, as some kind of robot, an alien life form, I don't know. She always wore the same disgustingly strict suit. She always had the same sleek hairstyle. She wore glasses on strings and her huge ego in a leather handbag. Mrs. Smith was a disgusting teacher. In my opinion, even the headmaster was afraid of her. Getting a grade above a C from her was kinda an achievement, really. She always picked holes in some little things. Besides, she liked to mock students who didn't know something or made some mistakes. She didn't go to the school cafeteria. I guess she didn't go to the toilet because no one saw her there. She never got sick, and everyone believed she never left her office. She guarded her laboratory as if she was a dragon and the chemicals were her gold. Anyway, as you may have already guessed, I froze in surprise and I tried to merge with the lockers and disappear when I saw her. I think Mrs. Smith didn't see me. If she did, that would change my whole story. Anyway, slowly, like in horror movies, she took off her costume and let her hair down. I believe some epic music was missing here and some paranormal noises. I really expected now she would stretch her hand out and unfasten the human costume on her. But what I saw made me really dumbfounded, and no horror music or paranormal sounds needed. Anyway, when Mrs. Smith took away all her clothes, it turned out she had quite a cool body. She was athletic and really looked like some Instagram model. I also saw an awesome set of lace underwear on her. It was red. I'm sure it was really expensive. My mom and I saw something similar in a mall and it cost about $500. Well, I guess our super strict teacher turned out to be quite a hottie. I turned on the camera on my phone, acting as if I was looking at something, and I also took some pics of her perfect body. In fact, I was kinda in an unconscious state because I didn't really know why I was doing this. Because if I was adequate at this time, I would prefer to hide deeper in the locker and wait until Mrs. Smith left instead of taking pictures of her with the risk of getting spotted and having my parents called out to school. Later on, when the teacher left the locker room without noticing me, I realized I had some awesome content on my phone. And it was about the toughest teacher at school. These are such opportunities, such prospects, such chances. Oh my God. The idea that this was actually blackmail, and it was, in fact, illegal, even if people you're blackmailing are doing something wrong, never occurred to me at that moment. There was only limitless joy and happiness. The very next day, after waiting for all the students to leave the classroom, I started my own life-saving mission to eliminate the TT. Terrible teacher. This was scary, yeah, but at that moment, I thought there was no turning back. Moreover, I already knew for sure Mrs. Smith was a human being, not a robot, that could terminate me and my family with some weapon from the future. By the way, Mrs. Smith was surprised anyone dared to approach her at all. She even dropped her jaw a little. Apparently, she was going to mock me, as she always did. Well, I didn't come for mockery. I had some other things to do. I moved closer to the teacher's desk, but I counted the distance so that Mrs. Smith couldn't reach me right away. Then I put out my hand with a phone, with a photo, to be precise, with a photo of her naked body. Imagine how a balloon deflates. So, the same reaction from Mrs. Smith. Just in a second, she seemed to forget how to breathe. She froze like a gopher, and somehow all her arrogance was gone. Then she looked straight into my eyes and asked me what I wanted. Even then, it didn't occur to me I was acting in a disgusting way. That moment, I had a smile past my ears. I said I wanted good grades in chemistry for me and my friends. Otherwise, well, I think you got me. That was a classic blackmail. The teacher silently nodded and pointed to the door with her hand. I left. For a whole week after that, I could enjoy the epic faces of the whole school, full of surprise and shock. How come? A strict, tough, evil chemistry teacher suddenly gave the first A in her life. And to whom? Anyway, yeah, to me. But hey, I'm not good at chemistry, see? And I'm not a nerd. I don't have the best academic performance. I'm an average student and not so popular at school. Then it turned out actually Mrs. Smith knows how to give students good grades, but to a limited list of people. And people figured out this list very quickly. There were only 5 people there, me and my friends. When the first wave of surprise and shock passed, other students came to us with questions. And that's where I made my biggest mistake. I proudly told the whole crowd of different students that I knew some secret of the teacher and I photographed it. When I was already home, I realized what I'd done. Because it's one thing to quietly blackmail a teacher for the sake of good grades. Anyway, that's still disgusting. And another to tell it to the whole school. I am so stupid. I immediately deleted all the photos of the teacher from my phone. And I put in a new, very complicated password, just in case. I guess it was kinda preparation. Things went fine for the next month. I consistently got good, high grades in chemistry. Even my parents started believing I was kinda talented in chemistry. The teacher wanted to vomit right at me, but she kept silent. Other guys didn't say anything. I almost believed everything was fine. But one day, I discovered my phone was no longer in my bag. But I didn't part with my bag anywhere except the locker room in the gym. But there it was in the locker. I was the only one who had a key. Nobody could get the phone out unnoticed. But there was no phone. Somebody stole it. The first thing I did was go to Mrs. Smith and tell her everything. I apologized and said I had already deleted all her photos, but there was no phone and I had no idea how it would end. Mrs. Smith turned out to be quite an understanding person. She turned the whole school upside down. She searched all the pockets and bags of all the students leaving the school, together with the principal and other teachers. My phone hasn't been found. In the morning, the pictures of Mrs. Smith and her underwear were posted all over the school. Fortunately, the most decent ones were photographed by me. And next to her photo, someone managed to hack my phone, get into the deleted files, and dig into them so deeply that they found my underwear photos there. And they posted them too. Honestly, my first thought was, this looks like a before and after picture, and it's clear that I'm a before. Well, I didn't have the shape Mrs. Smith had. I didn't have such gorgeous underwear to cover this body in a good way either. At that moment, I realized my naked and shameful photos were hanging all over the school, but I didn't plan to show them to anyone. However, now everyone saw them. It was kinda a nightmare. I dreamed of falling through the ground right on the spot and never coming out again. I wanted to turn into a caterpillar and crawl away from there. I was called to the principal along with Mrs. Smith. I tried to say that actually we were both victims, and we weren't trying to become some kind of new models of the adult genre. But of course, no one listened to me. The school psychologist even gave out the idea I had come up with everything, including the phone theft. Then there was another awesome version. It seemed to someone from the school management that the background looked the same as those on the teacher's photos. Of course it looked the same. I took these photos in the same locker room because there was good light there and mirrors. And this wasn't a very smart version that Mrs. Smith and I took pictures at the same time. So to speak, we arranged a joint photo shoot. That was too much anyway. The school management even said we were a couple. What? Of course, all my attempts to protect Mrs. Smith, at least who was 100% victim, my victim, to be honest, looked even more ridiculous. Well, who's the real pervert after that? And the most terrible thing was that this rumor went further, beyond the principal's office. And that's where all hell broke loose. My photos went further. Someone uploaded them to the internet and to some public city pages on social media. Then the whole city spotted me almost naked. In the comments, people generally divided in 2 groups. Group 1 thought I was sick and wanted everyone to look at my teenage body. Group 2 thought I was an unfortunate victim of an insidious teacher. After a couple of conversations with my parents and teachers, Mrs. Smith got fired with a scandal. I guess she would never work at school again, but I'm not sure. Because at that moment, I was much more worried about myself. But the fact was that no one believed she wasn't involved in all this. She had to urgently leave the school and fly to another city. But I stayed, yes. And I've learned from my personal experience how karma works. Because I started it all. I ruined the teacher's life. I started to blackmail her without even thinking about my behavior. In the end, I didn't delete the photos completely. They remained in the cloud and someone was able to restore them. It's my fault. Now I have another school subject, but it's more from life school. And the subject is called karma, justice, the lady of fate, whatever. Like, you get the things you wish to another person. The only thing I hope for is that sooner or later there would be a new and more scandalous topic at school, and everybody would leave me alone. Well, or I would finally finish school and get out of the city far away. That's a good option too. Thanks for watching, guys. Text your opinion of my story in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video. Share your stories about karma. I'd be happy to read them. That's it for today. Bye.